Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer, and today we've found a number of screenshots that relate to End Times Khaine and some new spells that have come out for just about everybody, all different factions, stuff that really will change the End Times games. Now, whatever you think about End Times, whatever your impression is about End Times, that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm just here to relay it. I love End Times. If you don't, this is not the video for you. This is probably not the channel for you. But let's just assume that you do. And my prediction, and I've said this from the beginning, is I felt that this is obviously the new thing that GW has fallen in love with, and they're probably going to make some changes when they finish with End Times. And the rumors were, even before it was released, that the intention was that they were going to change the game, and so that there's been a lot of illusion that one point that Warhammer 9th will incorporate some of this stuff and of course change it, maybe pull some of the batshit crazy out, which is fine. I'm more than happy to have that be the case, but it's fun to do it, to be involved with it right now. So if you're interested in this, if you haven't jumped in, please come on, join, get on the bandwagon, and please, just for everybody else who may be watching this, let's be polite, let's have some decorum here, let's be adults, but more importantly, let's give things a chance. Give it a shot, because you may find that you may enjoy this. Let's just enjoy the ride and see where it goes. So let's show some of the stuff that was leaked and that is really very readily available. You can find this yourself, but I'm going to go ahead and share it anyway. First of all, the armies are released. There are 3 different armies, as was reported previously, and I put in my previous video. It includes the combined armies under Malekith, which includes Teclis. There's 2 different armies with Malekith, and it appears that one is when he is the Eternity King, and one is where he is apparently the Phoenix King. Where he's the Eternity King, Helbron is with him, but not Teclis. And when he is the Phoenix King, Teclis is there, and I don't see Helbron listed. The Wood Elves are mixed in amongst these lists. So there's one list that's the host of Asterion. He's got Morathi with him, and he's got the Doomfire Warlocks, which is nice. I don't believe the Doomfire Warlocks are included in the Phoenix King list. What essentially seems to be the case here is these are 3 different lists. 2 lists are the fight between Tyrion and Malekith during the bulk of the fluff, and one is the aftermath, how the elves look when things are all said and done, and what the elves will look like as a combined army and profile going forward. So, you could take a look at the images. I'm going to put them up. I'm going to filter through them a couple times. There's also, pages that show Imric, and they show Alariel and Malekith. And I'm not sure if these are new rules. Tyrion's now the avatar of Khaine. I'm just going to show. I'll filter through these. You can take a look, try and if you can actually see with the resolution on the. If you want to pause the video and go take a look at them, you can get an idea of what's included on these various screenshots, and what is involved. But the real thing I wanted to talk about was the spells. In the previous video, it had been leaked, and I know that Unleashed Wargaming had reported upon this, that there were spells for Lore of Fire, Lore of Light, Lore of Metal, Lore of Beasts, Heavens, Shadow, Death, High Magic, all the basic spells in the Big Red Rulebook. And these were additions. These are crazy spells. You typically, 15 or 20, some 25 cost. Very powerful, some of which could very much be game-changing. And the rule was changed as far as, and I'm sure this carries over, across with all these different spells, is that now everybody's a lore master, so you can pick what you want. So you can take some of these super-powered, crazy spells. With that said, they've introduced a whole new slew of spells for all the other armies. Unfortunately, no spells for dwarves. We haven't seen anything new for dwarves. Hoping for the final book, we might see something good for dwarves. But we have new spells for all the Chaos guys, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh were in Glocken book. And we also have some spells for the different armies. So for Vampire Counts and Tomb Kings and Undeath, but also 2 for Skaven, 2 for Orcs and Goblins, and there's spells for for the ogres, which I think is great too. So let's go look at some of these, and we'll see how even for beastmen, these are great spells. These are powerful spells. Spells to be feared if they actually get their casting cost off. So let's take a look at them. So let's start with the Lore of Vampires. Okay, the first one is the Army of the Doomkeep, and this is a 25 casting cost, and I think well deserved, because this spell is a summoning spell, very similar to the Lore of Undeath spells. Obviously, it's going to be able to be used in a combined army for undead legions, but it would have to be on a character who has access to the Lore of Vampires. So, unless you take one of the special characters who can pick from several lores, you're going to have to devote. And if you take a necromancer, you'll be able to pick from this spell, from this list, this spell. So what this does is it summons a 300 point cost unit of Graveguard with a White King included. Now, that is pretty powerful. The real big deal here is that you can summon it not within 12 inches, which is what the standard is for Lore of Undeath, a major limitation that a lot of people just don't think about and don't remember and don't talk about when they talk about how crazy Undeath is. For a standard character, it's very limiting. Within 12 inches, the entirety of the unit. And if your guy is not on the edge or by himself, outside of a unit or on the edge of a unit, there's going to be some problems with that 12-inch range if it's a very big unit, especially if there's enemies nearby. Okay, so this one boosts that up. Now, any generic caster who takes this spell can summon that unit within 36 inches. That's a big deal. That's at least 2/3 of the entire board, if, let's say, you were in your deployment zone in the center. It gives you a tremendous amount of benefits. Now look, it's just a Graveguard unit. That's a pretty powerful unit, and it's only 300 points. But still, 25 casting costs, pretty aggressive. I think it's worth it. It still can be very, very game-changing, and it does give a lot more flexibility than just the standard Lore of Undeath for summoning. For the Tomb Kings, they get the Lore of Nehekara spell, Return of the Golden Age. And what this spell does is a casting cost of 20, and it's an augment. And it's also a crazy, awesome spell. What this does is it adds +1 to the weapon skill, strength, and initiative to all Tomb Kings models, units, friendly Tomb King units on the battlefield. So if you do have a combined list, it's not going to affect vampire units, vampire count units. It's just going to affect units from the Tomb Kings, which I think is fine. It's 20 casting costs, pretty expensive, but that's pretty serious. I mean, a unit of Tomb Guard with another +1, even just standard skeleton warriors with +1 strength, initiative, and weapon skill. Not bad. Makes them almost a little bit elite, and that could be a pretty big deal when you're talking about a unit of like 50 of them or more. And they can be brought back. Hopefully you can recast this spell. They could do some damage, even though they'll go down like wheat. They still are going to be able to dish out much more damage, which is one of the big detractors of taking some of these fodder troops with the undead. Okay, so that's a great spell. Good on for the Tomb Kings. Lore of Undeath. Okay, so this is called the Malediction of Nagash. Love this spell. This spell is a 20 casting cost, and within 24 inches, it targets all enemy units. And what this does is it halves their profile characteristic strength. That is phenomenal, because one of the big things about when you have a unit of fodder from either vampire counts, Tomb Kings, or for the Legion of Undeath is that they're weak. They usually are, unless you pay for the elite troops, they're usually strength 3 and toughness 3, except for ghouls, which are toughness 4. Even the great sword wielders or the lance users, they're going to be hard pressed to wound the fodder from the various undead army lists. And when you're dealing with a mass of bodies, that's a big problem, because if you were, like, for instance, Skaven, they throw this wall of flesh at you, these little, just hundreds of these, troops that are expendable. That's what I was getting at. So they're expendable. And it's the same thing with undead, but, it's a different flavor of it. Now you can change where you actually can make it harder to even take. They go down in droves. Now you're making it harder for them to actually drop, because you're lowering your strength. Yes, you get your lance on the charge. Yes, great weapons are going to still have that +2, but your base profile is going to be halved, rounded up, and I think that is crazy. I love it. All right, next one. Beastmen, Lore of the Wild, 25 casting cost. This one is, these are all crazy, so if I keep saying it, I apologize. On the entire battlefield, all war machines suffered die 3 strength 10 hits. That's crazy. You can sweep the entire battlefield of war machines, if not remove them completely, neuter them, or make them basically, you could drop them if you have done any kind of damage to them. Let's say you rolled that 1 wound when you're trying to take, do counter artillery or whatnot, counter fire against them. Now you're able to go and just have a pretty good hope that you can drop them, unless it's some of the big ones like the hell cannons or the big blasters for the ogres. But in addition, any buildings on the table are moved on a 4+, and if you have a unit in the building, all right, you suffer 4d6 strength 6 hits from the falling rubble. And it says if any of the surviving models cannot be placed at least 1 inch away from other units or impassable terrain, the entire unit is removed. So good luck garrisoning those buildings, which I love. I love the idea of garrisoning. I hate when tournaments comp that out. Next one, Materum, perk up. Ogres get some love here too. The Lore of the Great Maw. The Great Maw awakens, 20+. This is a magical vortex. So you roll the artillery dice, you multiply it by 2. Any models under or passed over a template must pass an initiative test or be removed, swallowed by the Great Maw. I can already sense a smile on your face. I know you're not, crazy about end times, but hey, this is something that I'm sure you'll appreciate. Okay, so it will randomize on subsequent terms with the artillery dice multiplied by 2. This is pretty standard stuff. Okay, so that's good. You don't want to be lizardmen or undead when that thing gets cast. Okay, next one is the Spells of the Big WoG. Okay, this is for orcs and goblins. And the first one is Raise the Great Idol. There's a 15+, and it's a summoning spell. So it raises a Gork or possibly Mork idol within 18 inches of the caster, and so any orcs and goblins models within 12 inches can reroll failed to hit rolls. Great, that's a powerful. I love that. That's fantastic. It's also a mystical monument, and therefore has the magical lodestone special rule from page. What is it? I can't see what the page number is. I guess it's from the Big Red Rule Book. I mean, that's fantastic. Only 15 cost. And the next spell is called Nick It, which is from the Little WoG. And that's a 15+, and that's a direct damage spell. So within 24 inches, you can target a single enemy character, and that character suffers a number of wounds equal to die 6 minus their own toughness. So not great for the first part of this, but it's the second part. Okay, no armor saves for that. So you might be able to do a wound or 2, or maybe a bunch if it's a low toughness character. Here's the crazy part. Regardless of whether or not that target is slain, the caster steals 1 magic item of his choice from the target. If the caster does not already have a magic item of this type, he can now use it. Otherwise, it is destroyed. So, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking Dispel Scroll. Somebody takes a baby wizard with just as a scroll caddy. You can take, this spell goes off regardless of whether you wound him or not. You can take that Dispel Scroll away from that unit. It's going to make people really consider that they're going to have to use that Dispel Scroll against orcs and goblins much earlier than maybe they even feel comfortable with. But there's a lot of other options. You could have some of these cheap magical items on these weak characters that easily can be game changers. But what about the more powerful items? This is, I mean, I love this spell. It's going to be something I'm really going to have to think about. Think about the special characters and their magical items that they could be losing and what that might mean for the game. Very powerful. Okay, next. Skaven Spells of the Plague. Okay, so the first one is called the Great Red Pox. All right, this is a 25+, and it deserves it because within 24 inches of the caster, units this is all friendly and enemy units are affected, which is great. So you roll a die 6, and on 4+, all units except for Clan Pestilence are affected. They're affected on a 5+. And what happens is they have to pass a toughness test or removed as a casualty with no armor saves. So this is a great spell against low toughness characters, elves for instance, even beastmen. Oh wow, what a spell! Okay, next one. Pit of the Underworld, 20+. This one causes a great pit to open anywhere on the battlefield, and you place the large template over it. and on a 5+, the pit opens. And you center a large template over the, you put a marker down, and then on a 5+, it'll open up. And it's the start of each subsequent magic phase, so it might not open up right away. Anybody who's underneath it. Buildings collapse immediately. Anything garrisoning the building is removed as a casualty, so that's a great way to take out anybody garrisoning buildings immediately, automatically. And anything else is initiative test removed as a casualty. That's pretty tough. So that's going to be really bad when you're dealing with the undead, or you're dealing with lizard men. Anybody who's going to be low initiative. Okay, great stuff. Let's move on to chaos. So the first one we'll take a look at is Lore of Tzeentch. This is a Demon Fire Vortex. Takes 25 to cast. It's a remains in place spell. Vortex rules. And the result, okay, so the template moves, I guess, die 6 inches in the direction shown if you roll a to hit. Okay, got it. And anybody who's under or passed over by this template, either when it's initially cast or as it's moved, takes a wound on a 4+ with no armor saves allowed. That's great. That's not crazy. I think it's got it moves a number of inches based on the artillery dice ×2, and it continues to scatter from there. Let's see if there's any additional rules. The Demon Fire Vortex moves in a random direction. Yes. Okay, so a number of inches. Artillery dice plus the number of unsaved wounds has caused. Okay, so this is a nice addition. Okay, so it's not going to do a tremendous amount of wounds individually. It could do lots of wounds to a unit, but the more wounds it does, the more it moves. So it can zip around. If you pass this over a unit and do a whole bunch of wounds, it's going to have that added onto the its scatter in subsequent turns. That's cool. I like that. That's just one of those random things that just make it very hard to plan for and can really change up a game in a battlefield. Excuse me. Lore of Nurgle. This is a 25 plus. The other one, if I didn't mention, Tzeentch was also 25 plus. Okay, so this one is called Grandfather Nurgle's Circle of Life. Okay, Grandfather Nurgle's Circle of Life is a direct damage spell with a range of 36 inches. It inflicts 5 die 6 hits on the target that wound on a 4+. That's a lot of hits. No armor saves allowed. If at least one wound, is it 1 wound or 10 wounds? This is kind of a blurry picture. Okay, if at least 10 unsaved wounds are caused, the spell also summons a great unclean one of the if the caster is a demon of chaos. Or a demon prince with the mark of Nurgle if the caster is a chaos sorcerer within 12 inches of the target, or in the target's position if it was completely destroyed. This model summon can be worth up to 375 points. Wow. Okay, nobody on Chaos playing Nurgle can complain now about summoning stuff from the Lore of Undeath. That's outrageous. You just send that spell, if you can get it off, over fodder units with low, it doesn't even matter if it's low toughness. It's a 4+ wound with no armor saves. So at least units that don't have, say, an innate 4+ ward, like Phoenix Guard or other demons. Anybody who's who's got armor, it's not going to help them. 4+ their wound. If you do 10, wow, you summon a greater demon or a demon prince. Crazy. Okay, moving on. Lore of Slaanesh. Song of Seduction. This is only a 20+ to cast. This is a remains in place spell, and it's a hex. It's got a range of 24 inches. For the duration of the spell, models in the target unit reduce their leadership by 2. Ooh, I like this spell. And immediately change loyalties. You control this unit as if it were part of your army for as long as the spell lasts. And it's a remains in play at a casting cost of 20. Wow. If the target is in close combat, separate the units by 1 inch. You may have to shuffle several units to make this work. This is fine as long as you don't gain an unfair advantage from it. Yeah, let's see how that works. At the end of each subsequent magic phase, the unit will attempt to reassert itself by taking a leadership test on its modified leadership. So the modified, I imagine they're referring to that it's -2. If the test is passed, the spell is dispelled. The big question would be, since they're now a member of the enemy, would they be able to use Inspiring Presence? I'm guessing probably not. But in any case, that's another very interesting spell. Should be extremely interesting to see it used on the battlefield. Okay, so there we have it. There's the spells that have been released and discussed in the new book, End Times Khaine. Let me know what you think. Let me know what please feel free to share your opinions. I have more stuff coming up from the recent tournament that I've been in, and a whole bunch of things that are planned, from Convert This to other analysis stuff to discussions just in general about the Legion of Undead and End Times. So hope you liked it, and thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody.